What is up, everybody out there on YouTube? You might be watching this on Instagram. Shit, I don't know where it's going to go, but we're back with another update. And I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I'm just kind of chilling on the couch in my studio, and I didn't want to do the same boring-ass, mundane prep update because I'm starting to get the sneaking suspicion that they're about as boring and mundane and monotonous as watching paint dry. So I thought I would sprinkle in a couple other things that have been going on this last week, points of interest, and really they're based around comments that I've received either in my Facebook group or on Instagram or even here on the YouTube channel. And because I think discussing a couple of these comments are going to clarify some things, and we can turn these into teachable moments, because that's always a good thing. Because I think the reasoning behind some of the things that bodybuilders and physique competitors do in order to try to achieve their ultimate physique, to present that physique either in a local show, or if you're trying to push toward a national level thing, or maybe you're just going through a season of really trying to do something with your physique that you've never done before, and you're really locked in, you're really dialed in, and the world of bodybuilding, the things that we do, it's not normal shit. It's not what Gen Pop does, and the rules don't always apply to the things that we do. And sometimes you just have to take the hard work and the experience of what people in this arena have done literally for the past 60 years. And what you're going to find is the common denominator around all of the successes of the people who have achieved these jaw-dropping, freaky ass physiques. A lot of the things are exactly the same for just about everyone, apart from a little bit of nuance here and there. So at 10 weeks out, I'm changing very little. Clearly, I'm in a cut, and here's where I'm at mentally. This is the things that I'm thinking about. At 10 weeks out, the concern, and this is a major concern that I have, of stressing out over, am I holding enough mass? Am I big enough? Do I have enough sheer muscularity to where I feel comfortable that I can stand on stage and compete? Because my goal is to win. And whether I am fortunate enough to pull out a class win in the 50 plus in October, which is the goal, or if I'm not fortunate enough, the same drive is still in place, and the overriding goal is to win. And I have come to terms with the fact of the level of muscularity that I have recomped in this prep, trying to get back a semblance of the physique that I had in 2021, 2019, whatever, during those years of contest prep. Basically, at this point, it is what it is. I was able to reach my peak in this prep of 219 pounds. And then I started to go the other direction and start working into a cut with a sort of a slow, titrating, descending arc, reducing my energy, making some shifts in my macros, not really changing my training at all. It's still as hard as I can possibly train, always, focusing on safety first, and making sure that I do everything very meticulously and safely, because right now an injury would derail this entire thing, and that would be the worst possible thing that could happen. So at 10 weeks out, the focus is conditioning and shape, period. Conditioning and shape. Along the journey through this cutting phase, as I said, the rules don't always apply in bodybuilding as they do to the general population. Some of the things that all physique competitors do in order to achieve that really lean, peeled physique go counterintuitive to what a typical bro or woman would do just to try to lose weight, get lean, and produce their best physique as possible. We're trying to reach a level of freakiness here, okay? So it is strange to people sometimes when I am posting certain strategies that I'm implementing that may seem very foreign or counterintuitive to a lot of people out there in the space. And I've explained this. I have moderate carbohydrate days, perfectly calculated to my physique and what phase of the prep that I'm in. I have one high carbohydrate day. We call that a supersaturation day, and I stole that term from the great coach AJ Sims. And on my low days now, in terms of update status, my low days are now very low carb, like right around 20 grams or less. And on those days, I will add in a little bit of extra exogenous fats, typically coming from things like extra virgin olive oil, maybe a little bit of almond butter on a rice cake, something like that. And but primarily on my moderate days and then high day, I'm implementing jasmine rice, cream of rice, rice cakes and raw honey, maybe a little bit of potato, either from sweet potato or white potato. And when I can get it, real sourdough bread, like the real fermented sourdough bread that's created from a sourdough starter, which I think is great in a carb cycling environment. And then there are those bizarre ass times where you will want to use the fastest absorbing carbohydrate you can under certain scenarios. Not long ago, I reposted a photograph from 2021, which was the day before my competition, and I was loading carbohydrate after a depletion of glycogen in order to fill out and present a very full, hard, dense, dry, separated physique, one worthy of standing on stage and being judged in a competition. You want to use a combination of slower absorbing carbohydrates like you would get from rice and potato. And then you also want to strategically implement faster absorbing carbohydrates to sort of more efficiently and quickly load the muscle. And you don't have to use such a high volume of food. You can have these little hacks with certain fast absorbing carbs to get that into the muscle more quickly and efficiently. Post-workout also in prep, I implement faster absorbing carbohydrates immediately following a high intensity workout session. And I posted a picture of me holding the now infamous Cocoa Pebbles. The internet lost its mind, and I got some pretty derogatory comments from some people, and that's fine. They don't get it. They don't understand what I'm doing. And I tried to explain what I was doing as best as I possibly could, but in that particular photograph, I was using it as a tool to refill glycogen quickly and efficiently, absorb fast, so I could then get it into the muscle. I could then go through my mandatory poses, evaluate my physique, and see the level of fullness that I was achieving, and understanding that there might be a place where the potentiality of spillover might occur, meaning you've taken in a little bit too much, it then spills over, and then you get slightly the opposite effect. But if you catch that quickly, then you can pull back, make a very minor quick adjustment, and get right back on course. Now, me knowing how much glycogen and carbohydrate I can absorb without spillover, I'm pretty in tune with my body, and I treat it fairly conservatively. I'm very confident that the amount that I'm taking in is not going to be so great that I have that spillover. In fact, if I've made mistakes in my carb up, it's by not taking in enough. I could have been fuller than I was. So sometimes you have to be even more aggressive. So sometimes even post-workout on a prep, immediately following a hard training session, I'll have 50 grams of whey protein isolate. Whey protein is fast absorbing into the muscle, gets it right in there and gets to work on the recovery mechanism. It keeps muscle protein synthesis high. And I'm going to take in a shittier, faster absorbing carb like a Cocoa Pebbles, or also something like a Rice Krispie treat, which is just puffed dry rice and sugar. And it's going to shuttle right into the working muscle, fill you out, get to work on reloading that glycogen, and also it becomes very protein sparing. You're not going to convert amino acids via the gluconeogenesis pathway into glucose, because in bodybuilding, you don't really want that to happen. You want to save those amino acids and the protein to do its job for growth and cellular repair. And you also want insulin and IGF-1 downstream to do its job to create that full muscular striated peeled look. So that's why bodybuilders will sometimes implement some shit carbs like that in a very short window of time because they're trying to achieve a particular look. Is it healthy? Well, of course not. But throughout the course of the year, I'm not pounding Cocoa Pebbles at home, on a Saturday morning, In fact, it's never brought into my house. It's typically here at the gym being utilized for a specific purpose. My wife, God bless her, would freak the hell out if I brought this horse shit into my house. We're talking about a woman who has a massive organic garden, buys everything organic and grass-fed. We try to buy from, local butchers. We have our own pastured eggs. We understand healthy lifestyle. But once we get into a bodybuilding contest prep, the rules change slightly, and you have to implement some of these little bizarre-ass strategies, and it actually is serving a very particular purpose to make the athlete look freakish to be able to stand on stage, or create the proper environment to reload that glycogen and create the physiological environment for growth to occur, for the preservation of lean mass, to not be catabolic, and to preserve protein to do its ultimate job. So that's why we do some of these crazy things. It's not because, I'm in a bodybuilding prep, so I can just eat like dog shit now because I'm just going to use it and it's not going to spill. It's for extreme short periods of times under certain direct circumstances in a very, very short window. And then once the goal is achieved, those things go back on the shelf and not utilized again until the next prep, and then they're used very strategically again. So everybody can pull their panties out of their butt. These are done for a specific purpose. So we'll call this, again, a chance to learn a few things. And this is a little teachable moment to make people understand, in some cases, the bizarre nature of what physique competitors and bodybuilders go through, because the goal at the end of the day, bodybuilding isn't about, in that moment, being the healthiest guy in the world, even though I eat very clean, single ingredient whole foods. There are times where you have to implement certain tools because the goal is to have the most optimized, freaky physique that you can possibly present on stage. And so we do things like this. Now that I am 10 weeks out, my beloved Cocoa Pebble post-workout strategy is out the window. I've now shifted over to where I'm having 3 plain rice cakes, one of which has a tablespoon of organic almond butter, because I want that little bit of fat with that little bit of carbs. And I also want, and then the other 2 rice cakes, I just put a drizzle of raw honey on it, because what? Honey is faster absorbing. The puffed rice from the rice cake breaks down quickly and is fast absorbing. So I've now shifted more to that. Could I still get away with Cocoa Pebbles 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out, 6 weeks out? Probably. But we obsess over these things, and we don't want to leave anything to chance because there is no real clear data on this stuff. We just know through experience, coaching thousands of people like I have, and working, in a very detailed format with high caliber athletes, we just know what works. So anecdote is an important part of this. And once again, if you were to take 1,000 high-level amateur bodybuilders, and then on top of that, every IFBB pro bodybuilder, and that's in all divisions, male, female, 99.9% of the time of those athletes you pull, they're all using some sort of carb cycling throughout the entire prep. They just adjust the numbers as they go, and those numbers titrate down as we get closer to the show. And the fact that metabolism or metabolic rate follows the deficit, sometimes when we do these high supersaturation carb days, you're just refilling the muscles with glycogen. It's not going to spill over as body fat. It convinces the body that we are not in any sort of duress. There's no starvation happening here, that we can keep the metabolism hot. It's like throwing gas on a fire. And you will oftentimes, after a supersaturation day, after about 24 to 36 hours after that, you actually maybe drop a pound and actually be a little bit leaner. And I see this happen every single time. So again, in the world of bodybuilding, or somebody who's trying to achieve a freaky single digits body fat physique that is full and muscular, the rules don't apply as they do to the general population. You know, speaking of comments and speaking of teachable moments, I had a competitor who competed a week and a half ago, and her name is Susie. And you may have seen the pictures that I posted of her, a couple of stage photos that she sent me. And she won the 60 plus in the figure category, the figure class. And she placed first in all 3 classes that she entered. Huge win. I mean, phenomenal. 60-year-old woman worked her ass off. Let me tell you, the plan that I put in place for her, she never deviated from it. Every workout complete. Every step of cardio, down to the damn step. Every macros dialed in. The adjustments that I gave her, she followed to the letter without question. Even towards the end, when she would send me those check-in pictures, and we would do our check-ins on Zoom, and she was in total freak-out mode, which everyone is at that stage. I knew from my experience she was right where she needed to be. I knew there was going to be a place where she looked flat. She didn't look as full. She didn't look stage ready, but that's where you need to be in order to become fat-free in the physique, and then meticulously carb it back up at the end to fill it out and make it look incredible on stage, which it did. However, after the show and after I posted the pictures, Susie got nothing but tons of positive comments, as she should. Amazing, spectacular, inspirational. Oh my God, you're 60? How can this be? So incredible. She deserved every accolade she got. However, there was one guy, and there's always one guy, whose comment, which he deleted after I went after him and articulately put forth where he had made a terrible misjudgment in wording, made a comment somewhat to the effect of, why anyone would want to look like a dehydrated raisin on stage is beyond me. Now, I don't know what's going on in this guy's life. I don't know if this guy is just doesn't have the discipline to do the things to his physique that others do to theirs. I don't know if he has the grit and the fortitude and that discipline and that drive in order to do the things for himself. And I don't know if it's jealousy coming into play, or maybe bodybuilding just isn't his thing. Maybe the competition physique is just so foreign to him that he just doesn't understand what's going on. But what he really missed here is the unbelievable amount of work and effort and sacrifice and suffering and dedication that is so involved in bodybuilding competition at every level. I don't care if you're an IFBB pro or you're just, Susie or John Doe competing in a local regional show in wherever, Iowa. You still have to put in the same level of work, the same level of sacrifice. And bodybuilding is the loneliest sport because it is a personal grind where you're doing the things that need to be done when no one's looking, in silence. And the thing about bodybuilding or physique competition, it's the only sport I can think of where every minute of your day, from the time that you wake up until the time you go to bed, is accounted for. And as you get leaner and more dialed in, your physiology changes and you become so hypersensitive that any little misstep that you throw into the mix could make a real distinct visual change literally within minutes. So that's why you have to be hyper disciplined. This is why we eat the boring, repetitive foods. This is why the only seasonings I use from this point out are going to be salt and a dab of hot sauce. This is why all the other things are subtracted. That's why it's constant repetition. That's why you eat this at this time, and you do not deviate from that. You do not miss your training no matter how bad you feel. You do your cardio no matter what the circumstances are. So they don't understand people like this asshole that made that ridiculous comment. he clearly doesn't understand the work and dedication that's involved. And he also doesn't understand that Susie and anybody else who's going through this process places themselves in roughly the 1% of the population of people who have that level of discipline to do that sort of thing. Because you have to understand, when I start a prep with someone, whether it's for a bodybuilding competition or just to get them into the best physique they've ever walked around in, it's going to be 24 weeks, 16 weeks. Then we go to 12 weeks, 8 weeks, make adjustments at 4 to 6 weeks, and then take it all the way in. And everything has to be meticulously accounted for. You cannot have any time off. There are no missteps. Everything has to be calculated. And when you start 24 weeks out, you have to time everything perfectly so that when you land on the show day or the goal date that you've placed for yourself, that in that moment, and for competitors, it's usually somewhere around 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, in that moment, you have to then produce the best possible physique you've ever had right then and there. And for the bodybuilder or physique competitor, you get about 5 minutes on stage to present that. All that work that nobody sees, all that suffering that nobody understands, all that time from family and sacrifice, no parties, no dinner parties, you're not eating out, you're not eating fast food, you can't just order a pizza, you can't have the treats or the snacks, there's zero alcohol. I mean, it is meticulous. And this guy clearly has no fucking clue what these people go through to achieve that level of physique. So, hey, dude, if you're watching this, thank you for deleting the comment, but do better, because you clearly are clueless. And I hope you have learned something from this and you now understand just a little bit of what goes into all this stuff. Okay? So those are some of the things that people doing what I'm doing are going through. When we look in the mirror, and I spoke about this in the last video, it's not about vanity. It's not about pride. We're not looking in the mirror saying, oh, man, look how jacked I am. We look in the mirror over and over again, obsessively thinking, that's a flaw, that's a flaw. When I look in the mirror, I see, I'm not big enough. I don't have enough muscularity. I got a bunch of flab underneath my pecs. Is that going to go away? My core looks decent, but I don't have the separation in my quads. Is that going to come through? Do I have this? Am I going to be able to get there by October? Do I belong after 4 years off? And I have to use that doubt to keep the fire lit and keep pushing forward. So, 10 weeks out, minor adjustments, slightly lower volume of food. My low carb days are very low now. I'm trying to really burn through some fat on those days. But then on the other days, I bring the carbs back up slightly to retain my fullness. I do my high carb day to throw gas on the fire, keep the process moving along, keep myself in check hormonally. Sometimes you go through this process where you get what's called reverse T3, which can make things sort of, sputter out. The high carb day pulls me out of that, keeps things moving along, and it keeps a look and a level of body composition that continues to get better and better and better. We don't just drop our calories from here to here overnight when we make changes in our prep. It's always a slow, meticulous descending arc downward. I had a client check in this morning. She's 6 weeks out this weekend and obsessing over, when are you going to drop my macros again? And I said, that's coming this weekend at 6 weeks out. You're doing amazing. You look amazing. And if I would have made the adjustment at 6 weeks, back at 8 weeks or 10 weeks, then we risk you peaking too soon. We risk everything coming to a grinding halt, which is something I did at Nationals, and everything is going to shut down prematurely. I'd rather keep it meticulously moving forward so we can get them looking phenomenal about 2 weeks out. That's the goal. Hold at 2 weeks out for that week, and then walk into peak week. Peak week isn't a time to go into desperation mode to desperately get some fat off. If you did everything right, you come into peak week knowing this week is about fine-tuning in order to present the best physique, not be in a panic to try to fix something that we fucked up in the previous weeks. So I want to walk into my show 2 weeks out being supremely confident, hold that, and then in the final week, do the necessary voodoo that I do, that all coaches do with their clients, to meticulously fill them back out and present the best possible look that we can present for them so they can stand on stage and have the greatest experience of their life, and God willing, get a medal draped around their neck, which will then change their lives forever. And that medal hanging on their wall or whatever they do with it is something that they're going to look at for the rest of their days and give them a sense of pride that they were able to go through that and accomplish something that only a tiny percentage of the population ever does. And for me, wins in bodybuilding ultimately are going to be something that maybe gives me some validity in the industry, but I also look at it as something that I'll be able to sit a grandkid on my knee and say, hey, look what your old papa did, not too many years ago. And living that lifestyle in my 50s and in my 60s will make me that weird ass grandparent that's able to run around with his grandkids and do things that so many out there are too broken to do with their family. So got a little heavy there at the end, but everything I said was 100% true. Just trying to be as transparent with you as possible. And I'm going to continue as we go to be even more transparent and continue to tell you everything that I'm doing all the way into the show, and try to present even more content that's, sort of bringing you inside to what I'm doing in the gym, the adjustments with the diet, bringing you into peak week, taking you with me to the show. And I hope you're getting some level of not only entertainment from this, but maybe some level of education. So maybe you can apply some of these things to you, again, whether it be to compete or just get the greatest badass, jacked, lean, shredded look that you've ever had in your life. So 10 weeks out Saturday. I'll talk to you again next week. And man, I really appreciate you guys sticking around with this. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And we'll fire it up next week. I'm out.